My family is from El Salvador. In 1979, a war broke out in El Salvador, and that's when my family had to come to this country. My dad was actually going to be sent to Cuba because my grandmother thought it was safer for him to be in Cuba. And my mother was a nurse at the time. She was a military nurse, and so she would get into a lot of trouble helping the guerrilla soldiers when they would come into the hospital. And so for my parents, the decision to come to this country was a forced one. At the time, we already had my grandmother, who was already living in the United States. She was living in San Francisco, and she came to this country for to find a better to find a better life for herself, but also to be able to provide for her and her family back in El Salvador. This is my mom's mom, and so my mom was one of about six. My grandfather actually stayed in El Salvador, and at the time coming to the United States, she came by herself. She had absolutely no family. We had no family living here. But moving to San Francisco, she decided to move to San Francisco because in the mission, there was already a group of people that had come here from her hometown. And so when she came, she already kind of knew folks here. I mean, she had some sort of support system, so she was able to start working and then started sending money back and put her kids through school, and then was able to petition for her kids to come to this country. But interestingly enough, at the time, the United States was not providing political asylum when my parents finally decided to come, so they had to pretty much flee because my mother was in danger, especially because of the health or nursing care that she had to give to the guerrilla soldiers. So she and my father had to come. They actually came through Mexico, and then while living in Mexico, they lived there for about 2 years. Had me, and so then when I was 2, we finally came to meet my grandmother, and so I was raised in San Francisco from the time I was 2 to the time I was 25 years old. My mom and my grandmother really pushed me and my sister to go to school because they didn't have that opportunity. And so I was able to be the first one in my family to graduate from college, first one in my family to even go to a graduate school and get a graduate degree. And so with that, I worked in domestic violence for about 8 years, so helping women who had come from families where violence was very much normalized. I think one of the things that was the biggest surprise for my family in coming to this country was, when they would hear stories of people who would travel here, they would talk about how the streets were made of gold, how there was money growing on trees. It was so easy here to be prosperous. And I think for my family, even now, they've done the same jobs. So my mom, was a nurse in El Salvador, loved nursing, and here she's been a housekeeper for over 30 years. She's had to deal with a lot of health issues. My father graduated as I don't even know what the word is, but he was like an agricultural engineer, I guess it's how you would translate that. And here he's worked as he's had odd jobs, but for the last couple of years, he's worked as a waiter in a restaurant. So I think for them, one of the things that they had to come to terms with really early on was that coming to this country, it's not like you have the opportunity, right? You're able to work hard, you're able to send money back and support family that you need to, but the expectation was that they were going to come and make a lot of money and that this was the land of opportunity, the American dream. And I think until I was able to graduate school and I was able to kind of help my family financially, that's where they were able to really pull themselves out of, the Mission District, which historically has had a lot of, it's a low income neighborhood. And so I think it's until very recently that they've been able to see how them leaving El Salvador has really impacted their lives in a positive way. I think that they left El Salvador because it was threatening their lives, and I think that's very real. and it continues to be very real, especially when we visit back and there's a lot of friends that they don't have anymore because they're no longer alive. But I think now more than ever, they're able to kind of see how their forced decision to come to this country has impacted them for the better.